So now that we've all had enough time to digest the Kendrick Lamar album, or who am I to judge? Maybe you still digesting it. I'm still digesting it. I had it on repeat basically every day since it dropped. But this is my follow-up to my initial video reaction to the song, my favorite song on the album still, Reincarnated. And I've had enough time to digest the song, to clear some facts up. I know I said a lot in the first video because I was giving my initial interpretation. I probably had only listened to the song maybe 2 or 3 times before hopping on video because I was so moved by the art. But just wanted to come and follow up with a few other things that came to mind. First of all, shout out to Molly Osama, I think is how you say it on TikTok, who gave a beautiful synopsis of the interpretation of the song. Got me right together. And shout out to him for that. But he was head on. He was dead on. I'm not a biblical scripture memorizer of sorts. So, I've heard scripture here and there growing up being Christian Baptist, and some stuck with me. A lot of others didn't. But I knew that it was a biblical reference. I didn't know the details of the story of Babylon and Isaiah 14. Was it 14, 13? You know what I'm talking about. Kendrick's song and the story of Satan and his father, which we now know I interpreted as God. But isn't God the father of Satan? Anyways, y'all know how that goes. But shout out to Molly Osama for clarifying the details of the story and how Kendrick's experience with past life regression helped him understand his own current life and the patterns that he's come here with yet another opportunity to overcome. I just wanted to touch back on it because that is exactly what I've heard so much during my experience here on this planet. Whether you believe in reincarnation or not, one of the things that I've heard along my spiritual journey is, we come here with a level of knowing, wisdom from our soul, and a lot of what we experience, especially when it's an obvious pattern of ours, or we just feel like it's a pattern of sorts that we want to break through, or maybe we don't even know that we want to break through the pattern. But regardless of what, I've always heard that whatever you don't get in this lifetime, you'll get it in another. Meaning whatever patterns you don't overcome, whatever, rectification you need to have done in this lifetime, what you don't get here, you'll keep repeating the same pattern over and over again until your soul gets it. This is what I gather from past life regressions. When a lot of people undergo learning about past lives that they've lived, they gain understanding for their current life on this timeline because it helps them understand themselves a lot better when they, may have gone through life not really knowing or understanding why they were experiencing certain things, why they felt certain emotions, why they had certain characteristics about themselves. And people who have gone through past life regressions often talk about how they gain more clarity as to who they are in this current life. And that's exactly what Kendrick did. He drew a lot of parallels from both lives. In the first life, he died with his money because gluttony was too appealing, as Kendrick tells it. And then in the second life, the woman died of a heroin overdose because, she wallowed a lot in the pain of the patterns from her life, not being able to rectify things with her own father and just being overindulgent in the lifestyle of fame and the music world. As Kendrick Lamar, he came here with a level of wisdom from those past lives, understanding that he didn't necessarily want to partake in the partying and all of that. And he wasn't necessarily, gluttonous when it came to earning money. But even still, with his intentions being pure in some ways, in other ways, he's still, overcoming certain parts of himself. And he was kicked out of his house, his father's house, at a young age. But in this life, he learned to forgive his father. Right? He understood why his father did what he did when he was younger at this point in time. And so he was able to rectify that pattern. But the pattern that the father illuminated was that you still love war. Look at how you're gloating in this situation. We all know the beef. that's happening and how it's interestingly playing out. But that's a whole nother topic that I choose not to get into on my platforms. I do have my own personal opinions about it, but we're gonna leave that off of here. I had somebody comment recently that said that the lyrics in this song are gonna go over a lot of people's head, and it's not for them to understand. And I respect that, but I don't necessarily believe that just because someone doesn't understand it at this point in time doesn't mean they'll never understand it. It's meant for whoever hears it in the way that we're hearing it at this point in time. And so you know, those of us who have gifts and abilities to be able to share and reach audiences that maybe won't even tune in to Kendrick but want to talk about the subject matter that he's bringing up can do so in our own ways. And I think he's capturing enough attention from people across the spectrum. You know, I'm talking about he grew up in Compton, you feel me? Social economic status, culturally, you know, just growing up in the hood. He's able to reach a lot more people, whether you're educated or not. You know, if you like hip hop and you locked in with the music or you like the culture, he's able to reach a lot of people. And so the more people talking about dialogue like this, the more people get an opportunity to be enlightened at whatever level they're able to receive it, right? Whatever level that is. None of us get to dictate that, and there's no hierarchy to any of it, because all of our souls come here with its own knowing, own levels of understanding, own karma to quote unquote undo or unfold. And I'm just really, again, impressed by Kendrick's artistry. He's just a dope artist all around. Like, somebody talked about how he changed his voice to sound like Pac. That is hella impressive in comparison to using Pac's likeness through AI, which we all know who did that. I personally, when I first heard the AI version, I was kind of like taken aback, not because of the fact that it wasn't really Pac and it was AI, but more so like, you know, who approved it kind of thing. Like, when I first heard, what's the name of the song? I think it's Tailor Made. I didn't know if it was actually Snoop. And then when I heard the Pac verse, it was like, oh, wait a minute. This is AI, right? Interesting. But then the backstory was that Snoop didn't even know he was on the track and he's alive. And Pac's estate wasn't even notified. And so it was just like, that was really reaching, because I felt like you really didn't read the room to know, like, as a fellow artist, like, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. Like, imagine someone using Drake's likeness and putting out a song as a diss track on a major platform to another major artist. Like, Drake wouldn't have even had that shit happen. Like, he wouldn't have gone for that. Like, I don't think he would have gone for that. Like, I just think it's AI is a whole nother beast. But as a fellow artist, you should have read the room and you should understand that. But I think it speaks to a person's character to not even be considerate in that way. I don't know. Very interesting. I respect Kendrick so much. Kendrick is the ultimate storyteller, and I feel like he is the heartbeat of hip hop at this point, because let's not forget that hip hop started in the African American community, and Kendrick is always telling stories, paying homage, and never letting the culture forget where the music originated. That is an African American contribution to not just American culture, but the world's culture. Everybody's feeling hip hop. Everybody loves it, but it started in New York. It started with hip hop, a hibbit. Like, don't even get it twisted. To anybody who's a so-called hip hop fan, don't get it twisted. I don't care what cultural background you come from. Respect, it's all love. Music is very universal and it brings people together. But I love and I respect Kendrick because people need to not forget the origins of things, because it gets diluted, people get disrespected, and people just don't understand what it means to the community that it originated with. It brings so many people together, and people love hip hop. Like, let's just be for real. I think it was Steve Stout who wrote the book, The Tanning of America. If you've never heard of that book, you should absolutely read it, especially if you are a hip hop fan. But he basically talked about how hip hop came on the scene, and over several decades now, it's been 50 years of hip hop. Over that 50-year period, it has colored so much of our entertainment, so much of our language, so much of our fashion, so much of our perception of how things should be in terms of relationships, so much of, and I'm not saying the influence has been all good. I'm just saying it has had a ginormous effect on where we are today as not just a country, but the world, right? Especially for people of color. And so I think that you should definitely tap into that book, The Tanning of America by Steve Stout. Definitely a really good read, because he's someone who, you know, is in the industry as an executive, and just has an interesting perspective on the influence of hip hop around the world. That's all I want to say for now. I've said a lot. Again, I'm probably not going to talk about this album anymore, but I am going to play it over and over again. It's definitely album of the year for me. Is that dope in terms of hip hop, especially because the guys ain't really getting active right now, and it was Kendrick and Drake, and so, you know, K-Dot did that. The real lesson here is, whatever your artistry is, whatever your gifts are, whatever your message is, you know, you have an opportunity through whatever experiences you're having, even if it seems like impossible challenges, you have an opportunity to transmute, transform, alchemize the energy and change things, you know. And as you do that from within, because it is an inner thing, this is an inner journey, an inner experience. Everything is imagination, because our consciousness is what animates this experience. We're living in our imaginations all day long, every day anyway. And we have opportunities to raise our frequency, not just for ourselves, but to influence those around us in our everyday lives, and just to contribute to a higher vibration of the planet by overcoming some of those patterns that keep us stuck and lingering in lower frequencies. Only you know what your patterns are. Only you know what your soul would like for you to unfurl. But it's your job to do so while you're here, or pick it up again in another lifetime. Past life regression type thing. Anyways, that's just my 2 cents. This is your reminder. You got this.